Hello, beautiful souls. Let me see if anyone is joining in today. Welcome to another episode of Creators Inspires series. Wow, I cannot believe that we are on episode number 6. And today is going to be another powerful topic on mental health. Last week we looked at mental health from a perspective of herbal, using like special herbs and medicine. But this week we're actually going to be focused on using mind body techniques, such as if you've ever heard of Reiki, or if you've ever heard of certain psychological techniques that most psychologists use. um, we're going to be joining coach today, Coach Lisa Marie, who is a licensed professional counselor. And she is, oh, great. She's on the live right now, and I'll have her tune in. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. So, so just to give you a brief overview, the topics we're going to be talking about today. So, a lot of the times we talk about mental health, and it can be addressed from different standpoint. What Lisa will be talking today about is, different techniques that you can use from a psychologist point of view. Last week we used the point of view of a herbalist, how certain herbs can actually realign the brain and whatnot. But what if you have the power to use your mind, with certain techniques. Hi, Masa, how are you doing? Certain techniques that you can use to kind of, realign your body and improve your health, improve your mental health, that is. So we'll have Lisa join in right now. She's on the live. So, and then we'll go ahead and start. So let me see. I'm just waiting for Lisa to join in. Hi, Lisa.
Hello. Yo.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, great, great,
Good.
perfect. How are you?
I'm well. I'm doing so much better today. Yesterday I had this awful migraine, so today is all good.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much for joining in on the series. I think this is a very important topic that we'll be talking about today, mental health, especially during these times. And, one of the things we talked about last week was using herbal medicine. So this
Mm.
show is actually a follow-up from last week, but more the point of view of using psychology and the power of the mind to actually realign certain areas of the mind, the body, the brain. And I would love for you to share, your insights on that. I feel like you are one of the experts out there, and a lot of people would love to hear what you have to say. So please introduce yourself. What it is that you do, and talk a little bit about, your business, and then we can go into the therapies later on.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure. Anytime I have the opportunity to share information about mental health, I'm all over it because
Yeah.
uh, we've come a long way in a short period of time regarding
Mhm.
health awareness and whatnot, but we still have a very long way to go in terms of just reducing stigma and really helping people access treatment because these are health issues that are incredibly common and
Mhm.
they're very treatable. There's no reason for people to suffer with whatever ailments or symptoms they're experiencing because there's so many different modalities out there. And I love that you are, spreading the word on all of these different methods for helping people
Yeah.
better because it's definitely not a one size fits all approach. So thank you for it. So a little bit about me. I started my career as a teacher, actually, which is probably why I enjoy doing webinars and workshops and things like that. And I always had an interest in psychology. I actually, before I went to school to become a teacher, I thought I might go into art therapy, but my artistic skills were definitely not on par with some of the students I was seeing at
Mhm.
college and things like that. So, um, you know, even the first few years of working as a teacher, I loved working with the kids, but I was more interested in their behavior and their interaction as opposed to, teaching them social studies. So I went back to graduate school and I got my master's in counseling. And,
Mm.
I had a lot of different experiences through either my internships or some of the jobs that I had early on. I worked in clinical settings, private settings, homeless shelters. At one point, I worked with ex-convicts who were HIV
Mm.
positive. So,
Mm.
really this wide range. And, I found myself then back in the school system working as a student assistance counselor. And
Okay.
yeah, I just, really connect with working in schools and things like that. And I also have which I'm currently doing that now. And I also have a private virtual practice. So it
Mm.
works out quite nicely with what's going on in the world right now. And
Yeah.
I offer psychotherapy and counseling services as well as coaching. So kind of like, have come full circle in terms of broad experiences and pulling it all together. So that's a little about me.
Wow, you said a little about you. That was a lot. You are you're so
Especially
multi-talented. So many different, hands in so many different pots, but at the same time, all focusing on psychology. That is so important. Now, tell us a little bit about your current practice because, you mentioned psychotherapy, which is to me, I've never really understand psychotherapy. And we heard that, word so many times, but what is it really? Psychotherapy, and how does it help other people who have any type of mental health issues? How does psychotherapy help someone through that process?
that's a huge question,
Oh,
but
okay.
simplest way to answer it, which is it's similar to a question that I get oftentimes, which is like,
Mhm.
what's the difference between therapy and counseling and coaching and
Yes, yes.
all of that? So I hear that a lot. And basically, to just simplify it, psychotherapy is really designed for the individual who is looking to gain some awareness about perhaps the origins of their issues and how maybe some early life experiences may have
Mhm.
contributed to their current behaviors and the current issues that they're having. So,
Okay.
I'm not one to spend too much time in the past, but I do think there is, a lot of validity to understanding kind of how you got to where you are,
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
yeah, and then to say, okay, well, now what am I going to do with it? So
Mhm.
psychotherapy tends to be a much like longer term interaction
Mhm.
with a trained professional, whereas counseling, someone can say, I have this issue, or this is something that I'm working on, or something I want to work towards. Can you
Mhm.
help develop some strategy? So I would say it's a bit more solution focused than
Mhm.
psychotherapy, because it's really all about coming to know oneself and,
Mhm.
and have an appreciation for where you've been and where you'd like to go. So there's certainly
Mhm.
overlap, but those are probably the key differences.
Oh, wow. So I didn't even realize that psychotherapy has a connection to the past. And, a lot of us, and I do feel like especially when I interact with different people, even from my own self, the past or childhood especially has a lot of influence on our current behavior, sometimes that some of us are unconscious of, and
Mhm.
some of us are conscious of it. So we try to get help. And then, these behaviors, whatever may have happened to us, whether we're 5 years old or whether we're 10 years old, they interplay in our adult life. So is that kind of like how psychotherapy kind of interact with that? That's kind of what I thought about when you describe how that is.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I became, in working with substance abusers and addicts, I became really interested in trauma. I
Mm.
never met someone who was involved in drugs or alcohol who did not have a history of trauma. Um,
Mm.
so maybe about like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I started doing more research and really trying to educate myself on trauma. And I'm actually a certified clinical trauma expert.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
because, you mentioned about early childhood experiences, but what we're learning through neurobiology and the various research that's being done on the brain is that a person can actually inherit their mother's trauma. You know, there's
Mhm.
this intergenerational trauma that transpires,
Mhm.
through that whole birth process, and it's really fascinating stuff. So, a person can, you know, um, accumulate, these experiences that weren't even their own, but it completely shapes how they interact with the world, how they view themselves, how safe
Mhm.
they feel in the world. So it's really very empowering to have that knowledge of where you've come from. Now, some people can get weighted down by that, and maybe feel angry,
Yeah.
understandable. But once you have that information, you then have the power and the ability to do something positive with it. And that's where then you try to help someone, move forward with that information.
Oh, okay. Wow. I mean, you just opened a can of worms just saying that because
Oh,
when you talked about I would like to call it ancestral, generational curses. One of the things I call it curses, but then again, it's not such a curse because if you realize what it is, if you have some behaviors or experiences that have, continually been going down the line, from the great grandmother to the grandmother to, to your mom, and then it's coming down to you. And I've seen it happen in my own family, and it's so apparent that I've always wanted to do something to change that. Like, coming up, growing up in Jamaica, we have a long line of women who've either been sexually abused, a long line of women who've either had kids under the age of 18, all of them, all the age of 18. And I recognized that, and I said, how can we do to change that? Now, it is really part of your mind and the choices. But then, last week I mentioned about choices. If we don't realize what a choice is, then how can we make one? And a lot of the times people who are suffering from mental health don't even realize that they have a choice.
right,
And so I said, if we say to anyone, oh, you choose to be this way, then again, do they really choose to be that way? Because if they don't know what choice is, how can they choose it? And so it's such a it's such a triggering topic for many, about, the traumas that we encounter and whatnot. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about, the different type of therapies that there are, because I know there's multiple, and
oh
I'm
my,
sure you have. There are so many.
covered.
And, I would like for you to talk about, there was one that you mentioned, when you sent your information to me, the cognitive behavioral therapy. That kind of like ignites something in me. What is that one exactly? And then you can go over the others that do exist. And also, transferring that, there's also an energy healing part of it as well, which is connected to the mind. So please share your knowledge on, these different type of therapies that exist.
Well, it's interesting. When you started, when you introduced me, and you were talking a little bit about your interest in psychology and using the
Yeah.
mind to heal. My reaction to that was, you know, a lot of times, particularly when we are talking about individuals who have a history of trauma, and they may not even know it. I mean, that's a
That's
whole
right.
other separate, because a lot of
Mhm.
times when we hear trauma, we think of, war, we think of, sort of like these major events, but
Yeah.
that's, trauma, impacts pretty much everybody if we
Yes,
really
it
look at
does.
a broader definition. But what I would say, and I know that you're interested in cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yes.
is the piece for me that is missing, because that is definitely, cognitive behavioral therapy is about, your cognitions and reframing thoughts, okay, so that
Mhm.
you can have a different experience, so that you can change your behavior by changing your thoughts. And
Mhm.
what I've found, because I did start a lot of my training in that area, and some of it was just practical.
Mhm.
Cognitive behavioral therapy tends to be more short term. It's, insurance readily reimburses, those
Mhm.
exercises, those practices, because it is evidence based. People
Okay.
do find success and they do find relief from their symptoms when they, start to become aware of their thoughts and change them. What I
Mhm.
then, though, is there was a giant piece that was missing. And, a person might experience a lot of progress in changing their behavior once they change their thoughts. But it
Okay.
wasn't a sustainable change because they were missing the body component. There was
Mm.
a disconnect between the mind and the body. And so I then discovered acceptance commitment therapy. And ACT, what I love about ACT is it combines the cognitive piece and the mindfulness piece. It takes a look at dialectical behavioral therapy, mindfulness based therapy.
Sorry to cut
I,
you. For anyone who doesn't know what ACT is, what exactly does that stand for, ACT?
but that's acceptance commitment therapy.
Acceptance commitment therapy. Okay, great.
So it really does a better job, in my opinion, of combining the mind and the body, you know.
Okay.
And then in working with individuals who've experienced trauma, you actually don't want to focus too much on the mind. What we tend to do is we work from the bottom up. We work from the
Mhm.
body and then work with the cognitions. Because if you think about any distressing event or anything that triggers you, whatever it is, you feel it first, and then your mind immediately attaches an evaluation, a judgment to it, and then that's where the
Mhm.
anxiety kicks in, right? So
Yes, that's true.
what we want to do is go into the body first. We want to first recognize what's happening in our bodies,
Mhm.
regulate that, okay? And then you can work on your thoughts. You can work on experiencing that differently. So, it's just kind of like a different way of healing. But I
Okay.
do think that it's super important that there is that mind body connection. You really can't have health without it, you know?
I definitely agree. I mean, a lot of the times when you do, like you mentioned about feeling, like you say there's someone, and this is a a case that maybe everyone can relate to. You know someone who you do not, particularly their energy kind of repels you. And immediately you start feeling this anxiety around this person. I'm sure everyone can relate to this.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how spiritual you are, we all go through this. And so there's someone who kind of energy kind of repels you, and you're like, oh my gosh, this person triggers me so much. And you're wondering like why it is that they trigger you so much. Is it something within yourself, or is it something, projecting from them to you? What is it really? And then your mind starts to formulate these different experiences, some that are assumptions, and sometimes assumptions gets us nowhere, and then some of it is actually memories from what you may have encountered with that person. And so, it's interesting that you said take a look at how the body is reacting and where it reacts. I find sometimes that when I'm around certain people, I start sweating. Like I literally start sweating,
Yeah.
or my legs start to hurt. And it was like my legs start to hurt when I'm around certain people, or the left side of my brain would start like throbbing here. And like, what? Why?
Yeah.
And it's something that you realize, and if you realize it, then maybe you can do something about it to kind of say, you know treat that person a different way, or see them in a different light, or try to focus on something good about that person, instead of something negative, so that you can actually retrain your thoughts, so you can have a more healthy experience when you're around that person. I
Mhm.
mean, it's not that simple for many people, because it's very hard to change habits and behavior.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
it's very difficult. I mean, sounds easy, but for a lot of us, we do struggle around being in different circumstances, around different people. When things happen, it triggers sometimes fear response and anxiety response, and we don't know how to proceed or move from that. So,
yes.
is there any type of techniques aside from the ACT and the cognitive behavioral therapy? Um, I've delved into EFT, the tapping with the mind. Have you ever? I don't know. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with that. I forgot. Yeah, EFT is like with the tapping with the mind, tapping certain areas of the body to
Yeah.
kind of retrain your thought. So, what are your takes on that EFT tapping?
I am. I I'm not an expert.
Okay.
I
Even if you're not an expert, even a simple, basic, experience with it. You know, what are your take on it, at least?
Well, I don't want to speak about something
Hmm.
that I'm not familiar with, but I will say,
Okay.
when you are addressing someone who has, or working with someone who has a history of trauma,
Mm.
and we are working from the bottom up, and we are really helping a person try to get back into their body, because essentially, especially if we're looking at someone who experiences high anxiety, they tend to be
Mm.
intellectual, very cognitive, very much
Mm.
about like evaluating why they are feeling a certain way, like wanting to understand it from the mind. So
Mm.
our purpose then is to really come back into the body. And one of the ways that you help a person do that is with grounding techniques. So again, I don't know enough about EFT, but
Okay, that's fine.
I wonder if tapping into, whether it's the I'm thinking of like acupuncture and Reiki, like with the meridian,
Yes, yes,
uh,
exactly.
but perhaps EFT. Again, I don't know, but perhaps it has something to do with grounding, right? So
Mm.
um, again, coming back into the body, anything that helps a person come into their body, it helps them develop that awareness so that they can start to regulate their emotions. So one of the things that I would suggest to someone who is in a great deal of distress is just start tapping the tops of their thighs, right? So
Mm.
anything that brings them in touch with themselves and
Yes.
and brings them into that moment. So like I'm hugging myself. I don't know if you could see me. I'm hugging myself. That is something that I would encourage a person to do. There's actually a very
Mm.
specific way with your right hand under your left armpit and your left hand over your right shoulder.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
what it does is this sort of simulates, it activates the vagus nerve,
Yeah.
like a hug, and it helps your body calm down so that you can
Oh,
work on your regulation skills. So
okay.
I wonder if EFT is something like that, bringing yourself into the
You
present.
know, you kind of, without knowing any knowledge, you kind of describe exactly what it is. It's very, it is really tapping, using the body, certain areas of the body, like the sternum, and tapping into certain parts of the third eye or the size of your mind and all these different things. It's kind of, it is that, and how the body interacts with the mind and actually, um, rechange or, restructure certain areas. Like, if you've always said, I cannot have enough money or something like that, you can tap into certain areas of your body and say, I have enough money. I am satisfied with where I am. And, these are some of the things that your body recognizes this when you do this tap. So it's now as part of, it's integrated into your mind. So you kind of describe it the same way. That technique that you said about hugging yourself, can you do that again? Because I thought I never heard of that, and that was interesting.
So there's a lot of basically, when you experience trauma,
Mm-hmm.
your automatic nervous system is thrown offline, and by coming back into the body and helping yourself, grounding yourself, you are learning how to, again, that rewiring, regulate
Yeah.
your emotional response, regulating your that physiological response in your body. And so there's different ways to tap into it, through those techniques. But one of them is, again, the right hand under the left armpit, left
Okay. Right hand under the left armpit. Are
hand,
you guys following? I see new people coming on. Hello, everyone.
yes,
So,
um, and left hand over the right shoulder. And you're just
okay.
encourage a person to just gently, hug themselves.
Mm,
Okay. And you're reorienting yourself back into your body,
mm,
coming coming home, reminding yourself that you are here, you are present, you are alive. Because when you are incredibly distressed and you're thrown offline, you then could, you have almost like this outer body experience, right? You dissociate.
yeah,
That's
that's true.
back online. I mean, through Reiki, and I think you're Reiki trained as well.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Again, activating the vagus nerve. You could take your right hand over your forehead and
Mm-hmm,
left hand over your heart.
mm-hmm.
This is something, it's kind of silly, but like I say to my kids, when I do this, Mom needs a,
Yeah.
right? So you're doing here is you're activating that vagus nerve, which runs throughout your body, and it helps activate the parasympathetic, um, part of your nervous system. And it's a
Okay.
gentle, easy way to help you relax. Now, what I would say to someone is when you're in this position to, take some slow, deep breaths. And again, it's just another way to help bring you back online to regulate your system. So those are just like some simple little things.
That actually feels good just doing that.
It
It
does.
really feels like it opens up your energy force in a different way. Makes you feel like calm and you're in control of your energy and yourself.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. It's just little things that you can do to help, bring yourself back into awareness. Some people with their breathing, a good thing to do is to just put your hands on your lower belly.
Okay.
Because when we are, and you could do the hand on the forehead and then the other hand instead of over your heart, you
Hmm.
can place just above your navel,
Okay.
what happens is when we are very anxious, we don't realize it a lot of times. We take very short or very shallow breaths. It's a
Oh,
lot of,
that's true. Yeah.
right.
And then you
And
feel
so,
like you can't breathe. Yeah. And you feel like you
yeah,
cannot
right.
breathe all the time.
That's
Hmm.
why, like, even people who are like, oh, I'm not anxious or it doesn't bother me,
Yeah.
but they have tense shoulders and
Yes.
neck and
The
that
neck
chin.
and the line in your, yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Are they
drop
talking really fast, talking super fast and not, understanding the words that they're saying when they have like intense anxieties? So, yeah, that's
yeah.
something that I noticed. Hmm.
So if they are, having that rapid, or shallow breathing, they don't
Hmm.
really know what it feels like even to have some deep diaphragmatic or belly breathing. And so by placing at least one of your hands on your, stomach, you should feel your stomach, expand with your inhale, and you should feel it retract with your exhale.
Mm.
But if you're doing all of your chest breathing, your stomach doesn't even move that much. You'll see if you try it next time. If you're feeling a little distressed, you'll notice that this is going, but not the belly, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to, and it's just healthier to oxygenate the body with lots of slow, deep breaths.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know,
it actually does feel different versus when you breathe in from the top of your chest here. It does feel like you're constricting the lungs a bit, but when you do breathe from your diaphragm, it opens up a different feeling in you. You feel more calmer. I did really notice that difference just now.
yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. That's what it's so great about. Like, I don't know if you, you know, do any yoga, but
Yes. In Kundalini yoga, they do teach us to actually use the diaphragm. So when we do breath of fire, for instance, you actually do fast breathing from your diaphragm and in and out, and just let that breath flow like a dragon. So
yeah, I like
yeah.
that. What do they call it? Fire breathing? What is that?
It's called
Fire
Breath of Fires.
breath?
Yeah, so it's yeah, Breath of Fire in Kundalini yoga. It's a different
Oh,
type of yoga, more focused, yeah, more focused on your breathing. Breathing, it really focus on your breathing and using different ways to align the body with your breathing. So a lot of it is breath work
right.
versus trying to get your body toned through different things, but a lot of it is just mind and breath work. So
Yeah.
that's why I love Kundalini yoga because it really brings you back to a state of releasing a lot of any toxins that may be in the lymphatic system and anything in your neck, releasing any stresses in your neck because the neck is also like I feel like it's a gateway. A lot of times when we are anxious, you feel this tenseness in your neck and suddenly it starts paining all the way across here and you're wondering why.
Mhm.
I used to go to chiropractors to get my whole spine aligned because
Yes.
of that. But then I feel like it's also my breathing, like I'm not breathing properly. I'm always tense. And once I realized that, then I start to do more diaphragm, not diagram, but more diaphragm work. It starts to like, I feel more settled, more calm. I speak calmer.
Hmm.
And, I allow myself to eat. I become a better listener too, and it just affects their entire mindset in a sense.
It does, and that's not just your experience or coincidence.
Yeah.
you are actually changing the way your body responds to
Mhm.
any sort of stimuli that is distressing.
That's true.
Factual stuff, for people who are like, oh, meditating and yoga and deep breathing, it's silly stuff, or it's, I don't know, hippy dippy thing. No,
Yes.
like real hardcore science that, we have looked at brain scans, and there's so much research has been done that, these practices actually do change the mind and the body. So
Yes.
it's incredible, and it's
I,
it's accessible and it's free. So
yes, it is. I mean, it's just a matter of getting up in the morning and taking even 10 minutes of your time, just refocusing on your breath and you doing the techniques. And, I was one of those people maybe 3 or 4 years ago of like, "Oh, I'm not going to yoga. I'm not meditating. That's for hippies." And then now I'm like, I changed my whole mind frame has changed because this has really changed my life. The way I see the world, I'm more open. You're not restricted. My anxiety decreased tenfold or even more. And, it really does transform your body when you do certain mind body techniques, reintegrating, the way your body flows with your mind. Because as you know, as the Buddha says, as we think, that's what we become. And so a lot of the things that we do think, negativity is out there everywhere. We consume it all the day, every single day, from whatever on our phones, whatever we're scrolling through social media. And this does unconsciously affect us. Just reading one line of a word can unconsciously affect our entire day, our mood, and our behavior and our emotions. And once we try to find different mind body techniques to, release that and do not hold on to it because it does not have power, it doesn't serve us anymore, then we can move forward from that.
yeah.
So, is there any other specific techniques that you can also share as well that, I think one of the things that I talked about was there any, you kind of delve into how ways you can do like this and, read into your body. Is there any other techniques that you can share, that the viewers can actually use at home? And of course, the viewers, this is Coach Lisa Marie, and please, you can always reach out to her at, Finding Midlife Magic. She offers, coaching sessions, and Lisa, I can give you more opportunity to share on that as well, later on in the session. But, please share if there's anything else, very simple technique that you can share with the viewers that they can use at home.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many, and
Mhm.
it's a matter of finding what's right for you. Um,
Okay.
but gosh, the simplest one that really anyone can do to get started is just checking in with yourself. Uh,
Okay.
in meditation or different forms of mindfulness meditation, you might come across what's called a body scan meditation. And essentially,
Mm.
that is, again, to make you more aware of how your body responds. Like you mentioned, you could see a word or you could scroll through your social media and be triggered and not even know it. And then maybe like hours later, you're like fighting with your boyfriend or your husband or something, all because of that post, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we've all done. And it's really just a matter of moving from living on autopilot to become
Mm-hmm.
more present and aware.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to slip up from time to time. I do all of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody is perfect unless maybe, the Dalai Lama or something. And one of my favorite,
And not even Dalai Lama, because he's
yeah,
admitted
yeah,
to his own mistakes. He's gotten mad a couple of times, and he said it's okay to get mad.
right,
So,
the normal emotion, exactly.
yeah,
Um, the Buddhists say, what is it? Pain is inevitable, but suffering,
yes,
like
that's true.
fully control everything that's going to happen in our lives, nor should we, but it's
That's true.
with that, right? So one
Hmm.
of the things with the a body scan or checking in with yourself is just like literally check in with yourself. How am I doing? What am I feeling in my body right now? So I think
Hmm.
if we make a point to do that very simple exercise a few times a day, it's just a very easy, simple, nice way to become more mindful and
Hmm.
you can do a full body scan meditation. I have, some scripts that I've recorded that I could share with people, and Lord knows there's a million different apps and all of that. But you could
Yes.
just self. It's just, you don't have to be alone or on a mat or a meditation cushion. Just make a point to go, how am I feeling right now? And take a few slow, deep breaths. My left shoulder feels a little tight. Don't add any judgments or evaluations to what you're feeling.
Mm.
Just notice. Just get in the practice of noticing how you feel. That's really the simplest thing to start doing.
And
Is
that's
really,
so powerful. That's so powerful. That very simple technique is just so powerful because do we ever always ask ourselves how we're feeling? I know sometimes I do not do that. I just let myself feel the pain and then I start suffering. My mind starts creating different scenarios about what could happen or what I think might happen versus like, okay, take a step back. Why am I feeling this way? How am I feeling? Do not judge. We always judge ourselves when we do become, we don't feel good or, we feel unhappy. And that is something very important that you just mentioned about not judging, not trying to evaluate, which
right.
is very difficult to do sometimes. It is.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's where, the what I like about the acceptance commitment therapy
Hmm.
is that, there's just some element of life where we have to accept what we're feeling.
Yes.
Fighting it, trying to, use drugs, alcohol, food, everything to avoid it, or, we just feel the feels. As difficult and as painful as it is, I promise anyone it is way more hurtful, harmful, and toxic to avoid it in any shape or form. It will come back and rear its ugly head much stronger and end up controlling your life. And you end up making all of your choices based on trying to avoid those feelings. I mean, think of
Hmm.
how much of your life you are giving up to let something else outside of you control you. So you got to accept that sometimes, you know what, I'm anxious in that moment. That's okay. You don't necessarily have to, change yourself or change your mind about it. You can actually still do what you need to do while you are anxious, but let's work on, helping that nervous system calm down so you can at least get through your day. So yeah, just check in with yourself, notice what you're feeling.
Absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
So
Great.
that's just something simple that anyone can do.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Lisa, for that
Sure.
technique. Thank you
Hi.
so much. Please share with everyone. I'm going to drop your information in the comment section. Please share, again, your business and how anyone can reach out to you. Do you have a website? All those information that if there's anyone going through, especially this time right now, a lot of us are, suffering internally and we don't know who to talk to. We don't know what to do and how, as you said, simple techniques that can use, but sometimes it goes further than that. Sometimes, having a ear there to kind of like listen to what's going on in your life is good. And Lisa is a licensed professional counselor, and anyone who feels the need to, you're having an issue in your life right now, please reach out to Lisa. She has a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, and I'm sure you'll probably get some benefit from different therapy techniques that is right for you in that moment. So I'm gonna drop your information, Lisa. If you could please share it anywhere else that people can also reach out to you.
Sure. So my website is just lisamarie-coaching.com. It's
Mm-hmm.
under construction a little bit because I do have some changes that I'm making to the website. So you won't see
Okay.
information about the psychotherapy services there just yet. So
Okay.
what if anybody is curious about what I do or whether or not we're a good fit to work together in either capacity is to just go to the website and there's you can sign up for a consultation, free consultation. It's 25 to 30 minutes. We'll talk about what's going on, see if it's a good fit, and whether or not, based on the situation, whether or not therapy or coaching would be best for them. So that's probably the best way. And of course, I have a private Facebook group too, Finding Midlife Magic, if that's something that they're interested to get more mental health tips and things like that. So
Great. Great.
Somehow,
Does anyone have any questions? You can drop your questions in the comment section. I think, does anyone have any question for Lisa? Does anyone, let me see, someone mentioned earlier about the subconscious mind. I saw that. Does anyone have any questions? I
we're
guess
not,
not.
no, okay.
Okay. So thank
That's
you
a
so
whole other
much, Lisa, for
topic.
doing it. Yes, yes. There's so much more, but as again, Lisa said, it all depends on when everyone's, experience is different. So it's such a broad topic, but when you narrow it down, it's really narrows down to your own experiences and your own life, choices and where you're heading in life. So, as I said, reach out to Lisa. She dropped all her information here. This video will be available on my Instagram page, and also YouTube. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Lisa, for
Hey,
stopping by.
ah,
Mwah.
take
Take
care.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. I mean, another powerful topic, another week in finding different ways about how we can, transform our mental health using mind body techniques. We talked about cognitive behavioral therapy. We talked about ACT, and Lisa's information is in the comment section, and she also mentioned the video, which will be available on Instagram and YouTube. Tune in next week. We are welcoming back Yasmin Brown, women's in empowerment author. We'll be talking about overcoming abuse. This is part of the Breaking Barriers Part 2. And, we're going to have so many very powerful guests coming forward. I'm so excited for September and the end of August. We have some very powerful people. And also, everyone who has already joined, you go and watch the videos again on Terry Shaw Inspires on Instagram and also YouTube. So take care, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. Or if it's Monday for you already, have a beautiful day.